The movie opens with Chloe Steele, a young college student, landing at JFK Airport in New York. From the foyer, she contacts her mother Irene, to let her know that she will shortly return home. She then asks to speak with Dad, to which Irene responds that he isn't home at the moment. It is revealed that Chloe traveled to New York in order to celebrate her father's birthday with her complete family. However, her pilot father, Rayford, has received a surprise call to London. She asks her mother to find out which flight he will be on, disappointed by the news. When Irene gives Chloe the flight number, she understands that the aircraft is taking out from JFK Airport. She makes the decision to wait in the lounge in the hopes of speaking with her father before his departure. As Chloe heads towards the lounge, she notices that Cameron Williams, a well-known TV host, is in the vicinity. A few individuals are gathered around him, one of them a middle-aged woman holding a book. She asks him whether he reads the Bible because he works as a journalist and frequently reports from the scene of multiple tragedies. Cameron jokes that he is religious too, but not nearly as much as her, assuming that she is. The woman laughs at his jest and points out that famines, natural disasters, and wars are all mentioned in Matthew 24 verse 7. However, Chloe cuts her off before she can say anything else. She queries the woman, stating that if God was aware of all these negative events, why he did not do action to prevent them. The woman responds, "God made Earth perfect, but it's our fault that it's a mess now." Chloe refuses to accept this generalization as an answer, pointing out that numerous innocent persons who have never committed a crime are also punished. She continues by pointing out how absurd it is to think that God loves all people when he turns a blind eye to their suffering during famines and wars. After the woman fails to offer a counter-argument, Chloe leaves, a little ashamed of her outburst. Outside, Captain Rayford pulls into the parking lot of the airport. He removes his marital band and approaches Hattie Durham, a young stewardess, as soon as he spots her. He's married, but Hattie is unaware of it, and their romance is clearly strained. After that, they go together into the airport lounge. Cameron, meantime, is really pleased with Chloe for challenging the notion of blind faith in religion. At the cafe at the airport, he approaches her and they start talking. Cameron calls the religious woman a nut job, and thanks her for saving him. However, Chloe responds that she was only practicing for her mother, who is also a religious nutjob. Cameron assumes she has a boyfriend when she goes on to say that she's waiting for someone. He tries to leave the conversation since he feels a little awkward about it, but she tells him that she is actually waiting for her father. She then witnesses her father entering the lounge while strolling alongside a stunning flight attendant. Rayford acknowledges her as well and clumsily assures Hattie that he will see her again soon. The father-daughter pair embrace as he moves in Chloe's direction. Not long later, Rayford recognizes Cameron as the well-known TV host when he sees him standing close by. When he inquires about their relationship, Chloe says no. The journalist then excuses himself, stating that he needs to attend to some pressing business. Rayford and Chloe then had a talk while seated. It comes to light that Rayford was unaware that she was visiting New York. He points out that it's too late to cancel the travel when Chloe says she wants to spend his birthday with the whole family at home. The two then talk about Irene, who has recently developed a strong religious conviction. It turns out that the father and daughter are intolerant of constant preaching. Chloe never visits her mother. Rayford would rather be as busy as possible, and other family members find Irene's faith and constant discussion of religion to be so bothersome. Chloe questions him about why he was strolling so close to the air hostess after they had a brief talk. However, Rayford brushes this off and tells her that he and her mother are well. Then he says he has to take his flight and gives her the keys to his car. He then says farewell to her and departs to meet Hattie, who had been anxiously awaiting his arrival. A few minutes later, Cameron approaches Chloe, who is still in the cafe, once more. When he inquires as to how things are doing, she replies that she is disappointed that she was unable to spend more time with her complete family. The topic of religion and how people look for the positive even in the worst of circumstances is then briefly discussed by the two. Cameron leaves shortly after giving Chloe his number because he is also traveling to London by plane. He is traveling with Captain Rayford on the same trip. Chloe meets her mother and younger brother as she gets home in the next scene. They then start talking, but Mom quickly shifts the topic to God. She describes how the Lord heard her prayers and brought Chloe back. However, Chloe becomes enraged by this and departs right away. As her little brother follows her, they decide to visit the mall. In another scene, Captain Rayford enters the aircraft and approaches Hattie right away. As the departure time approaches, he enters the cockpit and is wished a happy birthday by his co-pilot. A man with limited height tries to stuff his bags into the overhead storage box on board the aircraft. When a man from the Middle East stands up to offer to assist him, the shorter man yells back. He makes the point that being short does not entail that he requires uninvited assistance. Not too long after, the plane departs for London. Chloe informs her brother that she met her father at the airport this morning as they are at the mall. She lies when she says Rayford talked a lot about him and how much she loves him. She gives her brother a hug and declares that he will grow up to be a fantastic baseball player. But just as this touching scene is about to end, the boy abruptly disappears. There are only his clothes and backpack left, and they mysteriously fall to the ground. Chloe, bewildered, turns to glance around and notices that every child and a few adults in the mall have experienced the same thing. The action then moves to the plane where the same events had taken place. The co-pilot and all of the children have disappeared, leaving their clothing behind. The passengers are terrified, and a few guys run to the pilot's quarters to ask questions. However, Rayford lowers the oxygen masks and increases the cabin pressure. Everyone is compelled by this to return right away to their seats. Rayford instructs everyone to fasten their seatbelts and put on their breathing masks since he is the sole pilot left in the aircraft. He then tries to radio the control tower in an attempt to get assistance, but he gets no response. He's not aware of it yet, but a number of personnel in the control tower have also disappeared. He takes out his cell phone and attempts to contact his house, but nobody picks up. Chloe is back at the mall, running around like crazy trying to find her brother. Just as she's examining his attire, an unoccupied automobile slams through the front glass. This leads to complete chaos within the mall, and to exacerbate the situation, thieves start robbing the customers who have disappeared of their money. After some time, Chloe leaves the growingly unpleasant environment and heads toward the parking lot, puzzled. However, a lot of others seem to be searching for their lost ones here as well, so it seems like the same thing is going on. A tiny plane collides with Chloe's dad's automobile as she is walking towards it. She is so terrified that she runs across the street just in time to see a school bus smash just in front of her. As Chloe runs to assist, she discovers the bus is empty. After everyone has returned to their seats, Rayford evens out the pressure within the aircraft. After removing their oxygen masks, the passengers begin to argue over possible outcomes for the other passengers. There are theories of wormholes, alien abduction, and the passengers just being invisible. Meanwhile, Chloe eventually acknowledges that everything in the city has collapsed into anarchy. She assumes her brother may have been transported to the adjacent hospital, despite the fact she is unaware of what has transpired. She therefore dashes to the nearby hospital and uses the rear entrance to slip past the commotion. She discovers, much to her astonishment, that the room housing the newborns is entirely empty. Then a nurse shows in and informs her that the same event is happening in every hospital across the nation. This implies that the world's child population has most likely vanished. In the scene that follows, Rayford finds out that his co-pilot was wearing a watch that read John 3 verse 16. He also discovers that the other stewardess who disappeared along with her had Bible study notes in her notebook. He suddenly realizes this and recalls his wife's conversations about the biblical event known as the rapture. All those who have faith in God would disappear from earth and be taken to heaven, along with children who are too young to consciously reject God. She was correct. The rapture has occurred, which explains why the non-believers have returned while all of the believers have disappeared. Rayford then makes an effort to tell Hattie that he is married, but she does not receive the news well. Cameron notices liquid coming from one of the wings in the passenger cabin, and it quickly catches fire. He runs to the cockpit in terror and tells Rayford what has happened. They recognize they are in serious difficulty and that there is a fuel leak. In search of answers, Chloe enters her mother's church back in New York. She finds a clergyman who informs her that everyone who has disappeared has gone to heaven and that this is the rapture. In addition, before God judges the unbelievers who are currently trapped on earth, they will have to endure a period of darkness lasting several years. Chloe becomes enraged, as expected, and points out that the pastor himself is left behind, indicating that he did not believe what he had preached. Rayford informs Cameron, who is now sitting in the co-pilot's seat, that the fire near the wing will eventually go out somewhere else in the aircraft. However, they won't have nearly enough fuel to get back to New York because of the leak. But now that he can't get in touch with the JFK Airport control tower, they have much more serious issues. Rayford begs Cameron to phone his daughter because he is desperate to hear anything about their family. He's shocked to learn that the journalist has been attempting to do this for the past few hours. It is clear that he has developed feelings for Chloe. Rayford eventually succeeds in getting in touch with someone at the control center after some time. However, the operator clarifies that there is a lot of debris at the airport and he is unsure of where their plane would be able to land. In an attempt to find a solution, Rayford contacts the airport at LaGuardia, which is located in New York. However, the radio operator reports that this strange and unexpected turmoil is occurring in airports all across the world. Rayford becomes concerned about this and understands that things are worse than he initially believed. The safest course of action at this time is to head to JFK and attempt to land the plane in any case. Cameron then goes to the passenger compartment, where a woman is demanding an explanation from a number of individuals while brandishing a gun. She is identified as the well-known football player's wife, and she is shown traveling with their small daughter, who disappeared while she was sleeping. She accuses everyone of snatching her daughter because she is so terrified. Fortunately, Cameron calms her down and allows her to explain why she believes that everyone is working against her. Eventually, the woman breaks down and admits that her husband is a poisonous person who constantly accuses her of attempting to steal their daughter. Now that the child is gone, she may have to deal with abuse from him. Another traveler, a woman with shades and syringe marks on her arm, gets up abruptly at this point. She discusses the biblical event known as the rapture, in which all of the people who have vanished are carried to heaven. She doesn't know anything more than that though. Chloe worries that her father's plane might have crashed as well. Her mother and brother have also disappeared, so she doesn't see the purpose in continuing to live. She so ascends the Manhattan Bridge and makes the decision to end her own life. Cameron nevertheless goes back to the cockpit and settles in. When he does get through to Chloe, she is about to make a foolish decision. Thankfully, she halts when she notices the phone and answers it right away. Chloe sobs and tells him how much she appreciates his timely call. After giving Rayford the phone, Cameron tells his daughter that her mother was correct and extends his apology. The jet is running low on gasoline, and he's not sure if he can land it safely. He continues. Chloe tells her dad she will find room for the jet to land, and she feels like she has a fresh lease on life. She crosses the bridge swiftly and arrives at a work site along the road. She immediately removes all of the obstacles with the help of a close-by pickup truck, giving him adequate room to land the aircraft. Raymond gives her the go-ahead to illuminate the landing strip's entrance so that he can see it from the plane when she phones him again. Chloe makes the great move of lighting a massive fire with fuel from a fallen petroleum tanker. Rayford skillfully glides the aircraft in the direction of the building site strip after gaining sufficient visibility to do so. The plane lands safely even though the landing gear is destroyed in a violent slide. When the passengers exit the aircraft in the last scene, one of them declares that the worst is over. But as Chloe hugs her father, she claims that their problems have only just begun.